Hey, happy Sunday, everybody. Eventually, I'm going to set up the tripod and stop shooting these things selfie style. But for the time being, that's what I'm doing again this week. I hope you all had an awesome week. Some exciting things that happened for me this week. The podcast has gone over 1,000 downloads. Technically, usually I think 5,000 is a bigger number, but I'm celebrating 1,000. We're 7 episodes in and starting to get some people that are excited about the show. I've gotten some great feedback from friends that are watching, and so if you haven't already subscribed to the Pursue Your Passion podcast, I would ask that you would go and do that. Like I said, we hit over 1,000 subscribers last week, and some things that I did this past week to intentionally pursue my passion with regard to the podcast. I had a couple of sponsorship conversations, which is definitely exciting for me. Logged into Actors Access and my acting websites to see what was going on there, and had the opportunity to do a couple commercial auditions for my agent here locally. Haven't heard anything back on those, but just excited that I have the opportunity to do that still, on a pretty regular basis. Last week I was off from work, and I had some pretty big plans to knock a lot of things out with regards to the podcast and just, other creative endeavors. And you know what? I didn't get a lot of them done. And I would say that I spent a lot of intentional time with my kids. But to be honest, there was more screen time there than I planned on as well. So, this isn't every week going to be just me talking about all the ways I kicked ass. Sometimes we do get a little bit lazy. But I will say, even though there was more screen time than I would like, we did spend some screen time together. We busted out the old Nintendo games on Ian's Nintendo Switch, and we played some Roblox. And then there was just a little alone screen time as well. So was it a huge dad win this week? No, but we did get to spend a lot of great time together as well, which is great. But I think that brings me to something that I wanted to just mention. My hope in doing this, my hope in the podcast, is to help other people, do a better job of intentionally pursuing their passions. But when we're going after stuff, we also have to keep in mind that our other things are still priorities. For me, my relationship with Jesus is my number one priority, followed by my relationship with my wife, being a good husband to her, and then by being a great dad. And literally everything else, if I'm doing things right, everything else has to come below those 3 things. That's how I keep my life in balance. That's how I make sure that the stuff that I'm working toward is worth it. If I'm just chasing money, if I'm just chasing whatever, and my relationship with my wife, my relationship with my kids is suffering, then to me, there's not a big point in doing all that. So I know this past week, I know right now, a lot of people are setting goals. They're trying to be more intentional about the things that they're chasing, but keep in mind those things that always need to come first, and keep that in mind while you're setting those goals. On another topic, I did want to just say, because I had a really good conversation with my daughter about setting goals. And, it's super important that we set goals that are realistic, but that stretch us. And I think sometimes we err on the side of setting them too realistic, and then they're too easy to attain. And sometimes we put them out there so far that, they're almost impossible to attain, which I would argue is probably the better practice than setting them too realistic. And that was the conversation that Ariana and I had this week. Without getting into the weeds, she was talking about, what she wanted to accomplish as far as piano goes. And I just pushed her, rather than trying to get to this next book, let's try to get through that next book. And I don't know if that's possible or not, but I knew that getting to the next book, she was going to do that without any effort at all. So that's my little side note on goals is set them so that they stretch you. set them so that you have to do something extra in order to get there. So with that, you probably heard the paper wrinkling, but I did want to share just a couple of the goals that I've set for myself, or that Jess and I have set together. The first one is that I want to have all non-mortgage debt gone by the end of the year. And just to quantify that, that's $44,000 in debt. It's a lot of money. That's one of those stretching goals. I mean, some things we're going to have to really work to make that happen. But I want that debt gone. I want to have that feeling of the only money we owe is for our mortgage. In addition, I'm going to book my first speaking gig by June 1st. My first paid speaking gig by June 1st. I'm going to spend time every day learning more about cryptocurrency, and I'm going to spend time every day reading. Now, that's just a few of them. I've got a lot of stuff that I've set out to accomplish this year, but just kind of wanted to share those with you. I would love it if you would share some goals with me. Give me your top 1, 2, or 3 goals that you're going after. Put them in the comments. Direct message me, whatever you want to do. Accountability is huge, and if we can check in with each other on these things, that's a good thing to have. So, one ask, if you've made it through this far in the video, if you haven't already, subscribed to the podcast, please do that. If you're watching this on Facebook, please go to my YouTube channel. You can just search Tyler Kammerman and subscribe to that as well. You guys have a great week, and I'll check in with you next weekend.